Hello, it's Keith here, and this is lesson 30 of my Z80 programming tutorials. We're going to do a bit of a change this week, and we're going to look at how to create hardware sprites on the Game Boy and the Game Boy Color. Now, if you remember before, we looked at how to use the tile map, but the tile map is very limited in that while it covers the entire screen, it only allows for alignment on 8x8 pixel boundaries, so it's not really good enough for us to do interactive gameplay. Of course, my Grime Z80 game didn't use hardware sprites, but the original Grime DOS game only used the text graphics, so its original basis was also based on an 8x8 grid. Today we're going to learn how to do a sprite, and the sprite we're going to do is this little crosshair here, and you can see it's actually overlapping the Chibico sprite here, because of course sprites are on a separate layer. Now, the disadvantage with sprites is there's limits to them. On the Game Boy we can only have 40 on screen, and they're either 8x8 pixels or 8x16 pixels. Now, sprites are three colours, with the colour 0 always being transparent on the Game Boy, and the sprite data, the actual bitmap data of the sprite, is actually taken from the regular tile map, which is good because we don't need any extra program code to define the tiles we're going to use today. But we do have to understand various things about the data layout in memory, and there's some other complexities we're going to look at as we go along. So let's make a start on today's lesson. So how do sprites work on the Game Boy? Well, as I said, they're either 8x8 pixels or 8x16, and the first thing we need to do is turn them on. Now, memory address FF40 handles the turning on and off of graphical hardware. So we can turn our background display on the Game Boy Color, we can turn the entire LCD off, for example, but the one we want to look at today is the sprite enable bit. Now, we need to enable this, otherwise we're getting no sprites. So that's a very early thing you need to be careful of. Now, if we want to use 8x16 sprites, we can use this sprite enable bit here. But you've got to bear in mind that even though we can have 40 sprites on screen, we can only have 10 on a single line. You see, the hardware is moving the sprites around itself to overcome the limit. So while in theory we can have 40 on the screen, actually it can only draw 10 within a single raster line. And so doubling the height of the sprites is not going to allow us to get more sprites on the sprite area on the screen overall in some cases. When it comes to actually defining the position and numbered pattern of the sprite, there is a bank of memory that does this. The memory starts at FE00 and there's a total of 160 bytes for each sprite. Now, the sprite definition is made up of 4 bytes, and each 4 bytes for each sprite are clustered together. So effectively, we will multiply the sprite number by 4 to get the start of the data for that sprite. The first byte is the Y coordinate, the second byte is the X coordinate, the third byte is the sprite number, and the fourth byte is some attributes which we use for setting the colour and for flipping the sprite. So that we can have sprites partially on and off the screen, the top left-hand corner of the screen is not 0,0, it's actually 8,16. So this allows us to have sprites partially off the screen. Now, the sprite attributes use 7 bytes. The lowest 3 bytes are the Game Boy Color palette. These will have no function on a regular Game Boy. The next one is the video bank. The Game Boy Color has 2 banks of pattern memory, and so we can select 0 or 1 using this. Again, it will have no function on the regular Game Boy. The fourth bit is the black and white Game Boy Colors palette. Now, the sprites only have 3 active colors because color 0 is always transparent, and we can have 2 palettes using different combinations of the 4 possible shades of grey on the non-color Game Boy. So this is where we select which one of those 2 definitions we want to use. Bits 5 and 6 are the X and Y flip to allow us to turn our sprite around without having to use a second pattern to do that. The 7th bit is the sprite priority. Now, we can have the sprite in front of the background or behind the background. Now, by default, they are in front of it, but some games may use this, for example, for the character to run behind a tree or something, where the tree is part of the tile map. So it's a feature that some games will use for some simulated parallax and things. All of this is great in theory, and in simple cases it's very easy to use the sprites. However, there's a major problem with it. We can't write to the sprite memory outside of VBlank. So while on Visual Boy Advance, for example, the emulator's a bit forgiving, and I was very easily able to set the sprites up without worrying about that too much. On the emulator I'm using now, it's much more strict to the actual Game Boy hardware, and I was finding it really very difficult to do that without screen corruption. So we can't really write to this memory area outside of VBlank. So what can we do about that? Well, we're going to use a feature of the Game Boy called DMA. This stands for Direct Memory Access, DMA is something you see on a lot of systems for a lot of different purposes. For example, on the Amstrad CPC Plus, it can be used for digital sound. But in this case, what the DMA does is it's going to copy some of the normal system memory into the video memory to update the sprites during that VBlank very quickly. The important thing is, DMA is automatic, the hardware does it for us, so we're not using our software code to do that copy command, and that's the reason that it's so advantageous to us. The disadvantage is we do have to do some setting up to get it to work for us. So in theory, the principle we're going to do is quite simple. We're going to set up 160 bytes of memory somewhere, we're going to copy all of the new settings for our sprites into that position, and then during VBlank, the DMA is going to copy that area to the real sprite area. So what setup do we actually have to do? Well, unfortunately, during the direct memory access, the vast majority of the memory is not usable. So the program code that's going to handle the direct memory access has to be in the high area, which is 128 bytes from FF80 to FFFE, and it's important to notice, of course, that the stack pointer will also be in that memory area, but the program code we're going to use for this is extremely small, so it will fit. The actual DMA command is very easy to start. It's really quite comically simple. All we do is we write the high byte of the memory address, so it's got to be 0 aligned. The high byte of the memory address, we just write that to memory address FF46, which is a register within the system that will start the DMA access. That will copy directly to the sprite memory, because that's all this DMA is designed to do. It's just designed to update that sprite bank. So in the example code here, we've just divided the memory address of our cache by 256 to get that top byte. We're then storing that to FF46, and then we're just waiting for it to finish. But of course, we have to do this during the interrupt. How do we do that? Well, the VBlank interrupt executes a call to memory address hexadecimal 40, which is 64, within the ROM of our cartridge. So we just need to jump to the DMA handler that we've just described, which we've copied to memory address FF80. And I'm going to use my fake LDIR command to copy that to that destination. So we're copying to FF80 from this code here into that address. And then when it comes to actually the VBlank interrupt at memory address hexadecimal 40 or 64, we're just going to jump to that FF80 memory address here. Now, something important to notice here, this is the code as we describe it, but we're actually copying it to a different memory address. This is known as relocating code, and there's something very important about relocatable code. We can only use relative commands. You can see this is a JR, which effectively says jump back one command in this case. And so that will work wherever we put that code. If we copy that code to hexadecimal 8000 or hexadecimal 6000, it will work the same, because 1 byte previous is the same in both cases. But if we had said JP to DMA copy wait, well, when we relocate that code, that JP command will be a direct jump to the original location of the code. If you don't understand that, don't worry about it too much. But if you change this code and you put jump commands in there, or if you put a call and the subprogram was in here, they won't work for that reason. So if you don't understand it, just be very, very cautious before you change this. If you do understand it, of course, go ahead. You should be fine. So this is the code we're going to use today to do our VBlank handling, and this will allow us to actually set the sprites much more easily. Now, once we've defined our VBlank interrupt handler to do the DMA, we need to turn interrupts on, and we do that by setting bit 0 of FFFF to 1, which allows VBlank to occur, and then we need to just enable interrupts in the standard way. So here's the header that I use for my Gameboy programming, and you can see here we've added a new command that allows for this VBlank interrupt handler as memory address 64, which is hexadecimal 40. That's the VBlank interrupt call. You can see there's this reti command, which is a fairly rare command. We're probably more used to seeing ret. All reti does is it re-enables interrupts as it returns, because interrupts will be disabled by default at this point. As well as that, at the start of our code here, this is the beginning of our cartridge ROM, we are copying that DMA copy command into the interrupt handler memory address, which is, as I've said before, it has to be at memory address FF80, because otherwise the DMA will not work correctly. So that's what we're going to do there. Now, how are we actually handling that DMA? Well, the code to do that is just here, and it's exactly as we just saw. So we're going to load in the memory address of the sprite cache, which is where we're going to temporarily store the changes we want to make in RAM. We're then going to force the DMA to start by writing that address to this address here, and then we're going to just wait a while for that DMA to finish. And I just realised we actually should probably have a push AF and a pop AF in here as well, because otherwise we might be changing that. So that'll work better. So really all of the magic is being done by this command here. This starts the DMA, and that will copy from the memory address we've defined as our cache, which is at memory address hexadecimal D000, and it will copy to the actual sprite RAM, which, as we discussed before, is memory address FE000, which can only be accessed during VBlank. So that's how we're going to actually get the data to the sprite memory. But when it comes to setting up that cache, we're going to use this set hardware sprite command here, and we're going to pass over the X and Y position, the tile number, because remember the sprite data is the same format as our tile data, so it's just a tile number we need to pass, and any other attributes that we want to change, and that will be the color, of course, and the XY flip. So depending on if we're using that sprite cache or if we're being a bit cheeky and writing directly to the video memory, we're just going to set HL here. We're going to quadruple the sprite number we want to change because it's 4 bytes per sprite. Swap the L value here because, of course, we're byte aligned here anyway. And then we're just going to write that data to the final destination position here. So this will set the sprite, and that's what we're doing in this example here. There's various systems here, but this is the code that's doing the Gameboy here. So we're setting the XY position of our sprite, and we're just shifting those offsets by 8 pixels. And if you haven't figured it out yet, today's sprite is made up of 4 separate parts. This is a 16 by 16 sprite, and so there's actually 4 sprites making this up. And I can just show you here on my Sprite editor. So here's Sprite editor, which can export into Gameboy. You can see here Gameboy file save raw bitmap. That will save tilemap format, but as I said before, this is in tilemap format anyway. So you can see here that this sprite is made up of 4 8x8 subsprites. So that's why we are doing the sprite setting job 4 times. And we're offsetting by 8 each time here. So if I just execute this again, you can see here that the sprite is in that position. Now if I change it from 48 to 58 and just run this again, you'll see the sprite has now moved to the right. Now you should notice it's changing colour. The reason for that is I'm not properly setting up the palette, but so don't worry about that too much today. But as I say, the sprite, you can see we can move it around. And as I said before, whereas with tiles they are having to be 8x8 aligned, we can move a single pixel with this sprite. Of course, if I change these additions here, if I change this to a 9, you'll see now there's a gap in the sprite because, as I said, the sprite as it appears on screen is actually made up of 4 sprites. We could have used double height, which would have allowed us to do this with just 2 sprites, but for compatibility with other systems, I'm just using the 8x8 tiles. So you can see here when I've enabled double sprite height, we're now actually showing 2 16 by 16 sprites. But something interesting to notice about double height is the bottom bit of the pattern number is now ignored. So each pattern essentially becomes double height, and the odd patterns are now ignored from the point of view of which pattern we're selecting for the sprite. So that's something you can do as well if you want taller sprites. Now once we've turned on the DMA, we need to allow the interrupts to occur, and we do that by setting hexadecimal memory address FFFF, and we have to set bit 0 to 1 to enable the VBlank interrupt, and then we have to enable interrupts for that to occur, and this will allow the sprites to be drawn to the memory area correctly. You'll see if I disable this line here and execute again, we now have no sprites. The reason for this is, although we've copied the sprite definitions to that cache area, they're now not being copied to the real video memory by the VBlank interrupt DMA, so we're not getting any sprites onto our screen. So there we go. So that's the basics of how to get Gameboy sprites working, but of course, if you want to try this, the source code's available on my website, and you can download the Sprite editor as well, which will allow you to create Gameboy sprites. So please have a go with that. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed today's lesson. We're going to be looking at hardware sprites on a variety of other systems in the future. Anyway, thanks for watching today, and goodbye.